Before we get into today's podcast episode, I want to ask you a question. When it comes to your child's health challenges, what would you rather do? Keep treating the symptoms or finally address the real cause? I have a feeling like other parents in our community, you want to get to the underlying cause. And that's why I'm excited to invite you to my free masterclass, 3 surprisingly simple ways to transform your kids' gut health to improve their behavior, immunity, allergies, and fussy eating. You can head to the link in our show notes to save your seat. Remember, it's free. Or you can go to naturalsuperkids.com/masterclass. Our children's gut health is the foundation of their overall well-being. It's like the foundation of a house. When the foundation is solid, everything else is steady. Just like when the gut is healthy, your child's immunity, their mood, their skin, even their appetite and eating preferences are more healthy and balanced. But if the foundation cracks, you start to see issues in other areas of the house, like leaky roofs or squeaky floors. Addressing gut health is like fixing that foundation, and suddenly everything else starts to fall into place. In my free masterclass, I'm going to show you how to fix that foundation in simple, achievable steps to help improve your child's behavior, immunity, allergies, fussy eating, and so much more. I can't wait to see you there. Head on over to the show notes and click on the link to register, or head on over to www.naturalsuperkids.com/masterclass. Welcome to the Natural Super Kids podcast, where you will discover practical strategies to inspire you to boost the health and nutrition of your kids. I'm Jessica Donovan, a qualified naturopath specialising in kids' health, and I want to make it as easy as possible for you to raise healthy and happy kids. Let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back to the Natural Super Kids podcast. Jessica Donovan here. In today's episode, we're talking about my favorite topic, which is gut health, specifically how to simplify gut health, because I get it can be overwhelming, confusing. There's lots of information out there that can be conflicting. So you're like, who do I listen to? Where do I start? What does my particular child need? So that's what we're going to be talking about today, simplifying gut health for you. First of all, I want to, talk about the importance of gut health. So in last week's episode, we talked about where to start if you're feeling overwhelmed when it comes to your child's health symptoms, conditions. And we talked about gut health being foundational to all the other areas of your children's health. So you can go back and have a listen to that for more information as to why that is. But I want to, pull an analogy that I shared last week. Now I want to talk about that and just remind you of that, or talk about it if you missed last week's episode, before we get into this idea of simplifying gut health and whether that can be done. So the reason gut health is so important, naturopathically, we look at gut health as the foundation of a child and a person's health and well-being. And when someone has good gut health, it has positive flow-on effects to all the different systems and organs of the body. If a child has imbalanced gut health or an unhealthy gut, then it's going to have negative flow-on effects on all the different systems and organs of the body. And depending on what that child might be, genetically kind of prone to, it can, exacerbate symptoms and present in different ways. So, for example, an imbalance in gut health can be a big factor for eczema in some kids. In other kids, it might lead to more mood issues, let's say anxiety. So I think a really good analogy for this is to think of your child's gut health like the foundation of a house. It is the foundation of their health, so that let's think about it like a foundation of a house. If the foundation is solid, everything else stays steady. So just like when the gut is healthy, a child's immune system, their mood, their skin, and even their appetite are more balanced, just to name a few sort of areas of health. But if the foundation cracks, you start seeing issues in other areas of the house, like leaky roofs or squeaky floors. So addressing gut health is like fixing that foundation. Suddenly, everything else starts to fall into place. And hopefully that kind of, resonates and gives you that visual as to why the importance of gut health when it comes to our children's overall health and well-being. So it is no wonder that gut health feels overwhelming. I can feel overwhelmed by it. This is my jam because there's so much information out there. There's so much conflicting information out there. Food marketers and supplement marketers have jumped on the popularity of gut health. So there are so many different gut healing products, gut healing foods, everything's gut healing, supplements that are gut healing. So that makes it more confusing. And then, a lot of the information that we come across are kind of out of reach or feel really hard to implement. So things like strict elimination diets, where you've got to pare back a child's diet and they can only eat rice and pears, for example. I mean, for a lot of parents, that just seems, you put it in the too hard basket, and I don't blame you, because that is tricky to stick to and implement in the first place, particularly if you've got fussy kids, which often kids with gut imbalances or kids that need some gut restoration, gut healing work done are fussy and picky with food. And then there are things like, the GAPS protocol, which definitely has its place. And there are so many positive stories that come out of people that have done the GAPS protocol, but it is pretty hard to stick to and implement. And I think that turns people off, like, oh, if I have to do that, I'm not going to focus on gut health at all. Gut healing plans can feel really lengthy. So it's no wonder that you're feeling overwhelmed if that is you. And it's hard to know who to listen to. Different people might pop up on our social media, or, when we're searching things on the web, and one person's saying one thing and, another person is saying another thing. So I understand that it can feel really conflicting, really overwhelming. And many of the parents that we work with tell us stories. We've been told lots of stories about kids being given diet plans that feel impossible to stick to. I remember one incident. One of our Natural Super Kids Club members shared a diet plan. She'd been to a practitioner and she'd been told to put her child on this diet plan, and it was a whole list of crosses, foods that were not allowed to be eaten, and not a lot of ticks. And I looked at it and thought, wow, that is pretty hard for a family to follow. And the thing is, a lot of the time, these really hard, strict, lengthy diet plans are not necessary. That's what irks me. Like, let's try something a bit simpler first. And then if we're not getting, any progress with that, then maybe we need to get a bit stricter or find or change tack. So there's those diet plans that feel impossible to stick to, and those exclusion food lists, as long as your arm, without any guidance from practitioners on what food that their child can eat. And I think a lot of the problem here comes from practitioners that are used to working with adults that feel like, oh, I'll just give this child the adult, anti-parasite cleanse diet plan or anti-candida plan, and they can just stick to that. But children are not just small adults. So it's really important that you are getting advice from practitioners, qualified practitioners that have experience with kids. And the other thing that happens is a lot of kids are given piles of expensive supplements. They refuse to take them because they don't taste very good. And, it's hard for parents to keep up with them. I think us mums and dads find it hard enough to remember to take our own supplements regularly, let alone, a resistant child to take their piles of supplements. And yes, supplements definitely can have their place, but we want to make sure that they are supplements that a child, is likely to take, or we can find ways to get that supplement into children. And I think that's where we really shine here at Natural Super Kids, because we work with so many children. We know what powders, there's some particular gut healing powders that we use regularly that we know a lot of kids don't like taking. So how can we mix that into bliss balls or smoothies, for example, or ice blocks where they will take them. So yeah, it can feel like this huge mountain in our already very busy and overwhelming lives. And so I don't blame parents for putting it in the too hard basket. As I said, I think it's really important to remember that children are not simply small adults, and they shouldn't be given an adult plan, especially, diet plans. Obviously, practitioners are altering the doses of supplements for children, but they're still regularly being given these plans that are designed for adults. And we also really need to know that children require special care, so they need to be treated accordingly, but also they generally respond really well and really quickly to more simple changes than an adult will. We've got to remember that a child whose gut health is poor has not been through the months or the years of poor gut health that an adult might have been. So usually the resolution of that gut health problem is easier and quicker to fix than an adult's would be. So here at Natural Super Kids, we are, I guess our approach is focused on making changes that are easy to implement and specific to children, because this is our specialty. We're working with kids all the time. We're always learning more about kids' health, learning more about the research related to children's health. And so we are, that is our focus. We also have a holistic approach. So it's not just about, okay, let's remove all the foods that could be causing a problem for this child, rather than let's maybe try one or two food eliminations and focus more on building up that gut health. So we're very big on building up gut health so children can tolerate more foods again. Yes, there may be some foods they need to remove from their diet for a period of time, sometimes longer, some kids longer than others. I'm not saying we would never recommend removing a particular food from a diet, from a child's diet. But we're also, alongside that, we're keeping that minimal, and we're working on building up gut health. So making the gut more robust so that it can tolerate more foods again. A lot of the time, I'm not talking about, food allergy here. I'm talking more about food intolerances or sensitivities. A lot of the time they come from an impairment of gut health. So because the gut isn't functioning well, perhaps enzyme levels are down, perhaps short-chain fatty acids are not being produced because there's a lack of prebiotic fibers. Just a couple of examples. These things can lead to the gut not being as efficient or productive as it could be in breaking down foods and leading to food sensitivities and intolerances. And this is put very simply. So we're all about building up gut health and trying to minimize the amount of time a child needs to exclude a particular food from the diet. And as I said, we're very experienced and knowledgeable in children's health. So we know what works and what doesn't work in children, including what supplements go in easily, what kids are happy to take, and we try and include those in treatment plans. And when there is a supplement that has ingredients in it that could really benefit a particular child, we will be giving you guidance as to how to get that supplement into your child if we know that it could be a bit of an issue. Sometimes kids surprise us. Sometimes a gut healing powder that is not very well received by lots of kids, some kids will take no problem at all. But yeah, the point is that we've got that real life experience working with kids, so we know what works and what doesn't work, and what most kids will take willingly, and what supplements or foods might be a little bit harder to get into children. So when it comes to looking at or simplifying gut health, I think there's a really simple concept that we often talk about, and that is the seed and feed approach. So this is simple, but often one of these, either the seed or the feed, is missing, and that is, one of the primary reasons a child's gut health is below par, or a child is struggling with gut health issues. And so this seed and feed approach, one, it's really easy to remember, and two, it is more of a holistic view of gut health. So rather than just running to grab the probiotic supplement that your neighbor has recommended that has worked for their child's eczema, or running to increase fiber-rich foods in your diet because that's what you read online, that's a very sort of simplistic approach. You're only covering one of those elements of the seed and feed. So if we think about our children's gut health as a garden, and we need to plant the seeds, which are the probiotics, the beneficial bacteria, and then we also need to feed and nourish that healthy bacteria with prebiotics. And so I think there's a lot of people that know, I've heard a lot about probiotics, either supplements or foods, but the prebiotic piece is often missing. So just like if we plant a seed, a vegetable seed or a herb seed in the garden and don't nourish it, no fertilizer, nothing in the soil to nourish it, no water, it's not going to do very well. And that's the same with the beneficial bacteria within the gut microbiome. It needs to be nourished, it needs to be fed with the prebiotics, which primarily can come from food. So let's go back to the seed part. So when we're looking at seeding, it's about replenishing the good bacteria in the digestive system, in the gut, in the large intestine. And we need to think about this because there's a lot of different diet and lifestyle factors within our modern world that are depleting that healthy bacteria, from the obvious things like antibiotics, which deplete good bacteria, but also things like, certain chemicals and toxins that our kids might be exposed to, certain preservatives in the food that they might be exposed to, just to name a couple of things. So we want to be making sure that there's good bacteria being seeded in the gut, and that can come from probiotic supplements. It can come from fermented foods. It can even come from just exposure to different microbes in our lifestyle. And the best way for that to happen naturally is for kids to spend more time outside. The second part is the feed part. So as I said, we need to be feeding and nourishing the healthy bacteria with prebiotic fibers. And this is, really important. Otherwise, the beneficial bacteria will not thrive and do what it needs to do within the gut. And so prebiotics are fibers found in foods, primarily plant foods. So just increasing plant foods in the diet is going to increase prebiotic fibers when it comes to kids. There are some really easy to take prebiotic supplements as well. One that we love to focus on at Natural Super Kids is called PHGG, partially hydrolyzed guar gum. It's tasteless. It goes in easily easy. It mixes with water really well, and it's a really beautiful prebiotic fiber. But we can also get prebiotic fibers through like I said, plant foods, veggies, things like rye and oats and lentils and garlic and onion. But, primarily just increasing plant foods and reducing the amount of processed foods. A big problem is that our kids are eating too many processed foods, which are lacking in these prebiotic fibers, and that's crowding out more of the healthier foods that they can be having that will, feed the microbiome. So a lot of kids are lacking in fiber generally, and particularly in prebiotic fibers in their diet, and that's leading to lots of gut health issues. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. I just wanted to give you that kind of overview of simplifying gut health with that seed and feed principle today. And if you're listening to this in real time, before the end of October 2024, you will be able to sign up for my free Kids Gut Health Masterclass. There'll be more details in the show notes about that if it's available to you at this time. And in that masterclass, I am going to be diving into more practical tips and, exactly what you can do to seed and feed your child's gut, as well as, going deeper into gut healing and how we can improve our kids' gut health to improve things like eczema, allergies, immunity, mood, behavior, fussy eating, and so much more. So I hope this has helped you understand that gut health doesn't have to be confusing, overwhelming, and has given you, a couple of things that you can do to get started. And yeah, I would love to hear from you. Send me a message on Instagram over at Natural Super Kids. We're going to be sharing lots of gut health tips on our Instagram over the next couple of months. So make sure you're following us along over there. And if you would prefer to email me, jessica@naturalsuperkids.com, I'd love to hear how you found this podcast episode. And I would also love to see you at my free Kids Gut Health Masterclass in October as well. Thanks so much, guys. Talk soon. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Head on over to our website, naturalsuperkids.com, for the show notes for this episode, as well as a whole heap of inspiration to help you raise healthy and happy kids. I'll see you next week. We talk a lot about gut health on the podcast. And when people hear gut health, their first thought is often probiotic supplements. And yes, probiotic supplements can be super helpful, but gut health is about so much more than just probiotic supplements. In fact, focusing only on a probiotic supplement is like trying to build a house with just one tool. Gut health is the foundation of your child's overall well-being, affecting everything from behavior, immunity, allergies, mood, and fussy eating. But if you're only looking at probiotics, you're missing out on the bigger picture. In my free upcoming masterclass, 3 surprisingly simple ways to transform your kids' gut health, I'll be diving deeper into how you can support your child's gut health naturally without relying solely on probiotics. I'd love to see you there. We have 3 live sessions to choose from. You can sign up via the link in the show notes or head on over to naturalsuperkids.com/masterclass. It's completely free, and I promise you'll learn a whole heap about taking better care of your child's gut health and improving their overall well-being.